Early.
All right.
Well, I mean, it's right now 11:12, right? Should we start?
Yes.
All right. You know, all right. Thank you. All right, so it's 11:13 now, right? And just in case, if anyone comes in and they say, "Oh my God, I wanted the meetings to start at 11:15, Sunil, this is your fault," I'll say, "I did what the congregation wanted." All right. All right, good. Before we begin, you know, somebody commented to me right after I was leaving, as they were leaving the church, because that's the best sermon you've ever said. I know. All right. So I'm officially calling the 186th annual meeting of the Parish of Christ Church to be ordered, to begin. I call to order. Thank you for your presence and participation at our meeting. Please sign in if you haven't signed in already. The sign-in sheets are on the card table or they're being passed around right now. And then right now, I'm calling on Father Eric Larson to lead us in prayer.
Thank you. May remain seated. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with those who take counsel at our annual meeting for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it, through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Thanks, Father Eric. So we're going to take a moment. Please join me in taking a moment to pause with your name and give thanks to the lives and ministries of the members of Christ Church, our church family who departed in this past year. We remembered them right before we did the Eucharist, but we will remember them officially here and now in our annual meeting. We remember their model of faithful living, and we hope that their lives inspire us on our own earthly realm to live our own lives of faith. And we also ask for God's love and consoling grace for our family. Let's remember them now. Janet Hinchcliffe, Joe Kelly, Van Halsey Jr., May Hindle, Sylvia Oberon, Seth Holman, Donald Aladas, David Hornberg, Mark Sullivan, Linda Springer. Let us pray. Lord Jesus Christ, by your death you took away the sting of death. Grant to us, your servants, so to follow in faith where you have led the way, that we may at length fall asleep peacefully in you, and wake up in your likeness, for your tender mercy's sake. Amen. Amen. And then invite our clerk of the vestry, Sarah, who will give us an explanation of the procedure and the floor.
Notice that this meeting was given as required by the bylaws. Christ Church has 587 members, of which one for this meeting would be 30 members. And how many people are there? I find we have a quorum.
Now it's on.
So quickly again, notice that this meeting was given as required by the bylaws. Given that we have 587 members at this point, a quorum, which is 5%, would be 30 members, and given this crowd, I find we have a quorum for this meeting.
All right. You guys heard me before, huh? Yeah, that's great. So, the minutes for the annual meeting for January 28th have been presented to you in your annual report. You received them by email, but you also have them available here. They are on page, in the beginning of the annual report. I would entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
All right. Motion was made, seconded.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor of accepting the minutes, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the minutes are approved. So, now we're moving over to the rector's report. That dynamic address that you're waiting for. I need something. Can we have that? So, we're going to use the full use of all of our media today. So, remember a while ago we spent some money? You remember that. You all might remember how we spend money. We spent some money on a TV, but it was actually a donation. So it was just gratefully appreciated. And we're going to use that today. No, I haven't been there yet. Glory be to God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. Amen. There will be no gloom for those who were in anguish. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in deep darkness, on them light has shined. These words spoken by the prophet Isaiah were a courageous statement of faith. The prophet lived in dangerous times, in the 8th century BCE, 800 years before Christ. The once powerful nation of Israel, the nation of kings, kings such as David and Solomon, had in a generation split into two kingdoms, the northern country of Israel and its sister, the southern nation of Judah. Individually, they were weak and isolated, prey to the advances of other nations. Eventually, during the lifetime of Isaiah, both nations would be conquered. Isaiah, an inhabitant of Judah, witnessed the forced exile of his people to Babylon. In today's passage from Isaiah, northern Israel no longer exists, and Judah is about to become a memory. Although the nation and its people faced a violent and protracted struggle, the prophet, eschewing despair, reminds the people that God is always God, and their God will bring hope even through the challenges of their present moment. Indeed, God did bring the people of Israel through. About 70 years later, they returned, or rather their descendants returned, to their Jewish homeland from all over the world. A generation of Israelites never saw their homeland, but they never felt abandoned because God went with them into their exile. God was always their refuge and strength, a very present help in the midst of trouble, at home and in foreign places. Modern scholars believe that the exile, though initially viewed as a great tragedy, might have proved to be the very challenge that helps keep the identity and religious faith of the Hebrew people alive today. Isn't it true that the challenges we face can lead us to despair, causing us to feel the meaninglessness of life? Isn't it also true that our challenges, if we frame through the eyes of trust and hope, can give us a transformed meaning and a new purpose? Isaiah and his disciples reclaimed an ancient vision of the people of Israel. Isaiah understood God's faithfulness to his people and then reminded them that they were called not just to survive, but rather to be a blessing for the world. Why else would God call their ancient father Abraham out of the land of Babylon and lead him and his family to the promised land? Was it for survival? Yes. But a more profound understanding of the call was to be a light to the world, showing the world that God is faithful For Isaiah, the suffering people of his people did have meaning. It did have purpose, not just for the survival of his people, but for God's plan of salvation. 800 years later, as Jesus calls his first disciples on the banks of Galilee, the context has changed. In the years between Isaiah and Jesus, Israel became a nation again, and new conquerors came into being. In Jesus' time, the Roman Empire was the occupying force. Many things did change, but what really mattered did not change. God is faithful. Jesus calls his first disciples, reclaiming the vision of Isaiah, the dream of God for Abraham and his children. The idea that God's light shines in the world's darkness. God's light being a light that can provide hope for all people, a way out of violence into peace. This is the vision that Jesus died for on the cross. There's also the vision that the disciples proclaimed at the resurrection of Jesus. Christ Church, we have been given that vision. That vision reminds us that we are called not just to survive. The dream proclaims that the struggles and challenges we face in our past don't diminish us, but are the source of our strength. The lessons we have learned about God's faithfulness, our resilience, our purpose, moves us way past our limited desire to survive. Christ's vision reminds us that amid our challenges, God was and will always be present, encouraging us to be our better selves, encouraging us to be light for the world. I have been your rector now for 5 years. We've encountered challenges and experienced times of worry and anxiety. Yet through it all, we have recognized that God, Emmanuel, has always been with us. The year 2019 has been a year of triumphs, transitions, and tragedies. Yet through all of this year, Christ Church has reflected the light of God, becoming a beacon for our community and the world. Although there are many things that we could mention, I'd like to highlight a few things in my report to you. This year, we were successful in our completion of our capital campaign of $1.5 million. Thanks to the work of our capital campaign committee, led by our chair, Fred Allardyce, we started and completed the replacement of our church roof. Thanks to your contributions and the hard work of Fred's team, the prayerful attitude of our vestry, and most of all, God's grace, we will not have to change that roof for another 125 years. Applause is appropriate now. We're presently working on getting bids for the AC project, which we hope will be installed later this year. The capital campaign success has allowed us to start the refurbishment of 3 of our stained glass windows. Fred, along with our newly retiring property chair, Doug Lawrence, will give us a report and answer any questions we might have. Communication has been a key to our growth and continued success of our congregation. I'm grateful to Caswell Cook for his continued emphasis on communication, whether it's print media, social media, or simple word of mouth. Our budget for communications for the past 2 years has been $10,000. Some may believe that amount is too high, but there was not a wasted penny among that budget. Friends, we're experiencing the cost of evangelism in our day. If we want to have a thriving and active ministry, we must invest in our church. Provided for in this year's communication budget is the cost of the maintenance of our website. I highlight this because in this past year, with the consultation of Caswell, Betsy Rice, our senior warden, Emily Muggy, the vestry, and the parish office staff, we committed to upgrading our website, hiring Shane Bellinger from Westerly Life. Because of their work and the work of our staff, we're putting relevant, correct information on the website. We're even also using Facebook Live and other social media platforms to get the message out about our church and its ministries. So far, we are getting a lot of attention from the diocese and the broader community. People are noticing us. Again, this is due to our commitment to communication, which I believe is pivotal to our call to evangelism. We also began the year of 2019 planning to undertake a different approach to Sunday worship. Sunday service times changed from 9 a.m. and 11 to 8 a.m. and 10 last June. The rationale for the change was that it would have allowed us to have more enrichment programs after the 10 a.m. service, and this has proven right. Presently, on any given regular Sunday, after the 10 a.m. service, you'll find education offered to children and adults in the form of Sunday school, adult forum, and rector's forum. We now have the choice to go to a poetry group session, a Bible study, a writer series, an educational program, or get involved in an outreach activity. Our parishioners can also choose simply to partake in fellowship time with one another, having a cup of coffee or a pastry. This past year has marked our church's commitment to dig deeper within our Anglican Episcopal heritage. In our services on Sunday morning or Saturday evening, we're using a different Eucharistic prayer each week. Have you noticed? Yes. Currently, in addition to the Eucharistic services, we've been incorporating morning prayer, evening prayer, and compline. In the upcoming year, our worship committee is also looking to include healing prayers into our services. All of these wonderful additions will continue to help all of our parishioners to deepen their spiritual experience while strengthening our resolve to be God's agents of change in the world. I am truly grateful for our staff. They work so hard to keep all those balls in the air in this busy and active church of ours. This year, we hired Dorothy Adams as our part-time parish secretary. Stevie Blanchette is helping us with bookkeeping after the well-deserved retirement of Barbara Whitford. Stevie will continue to help us until we hire a permanent bookkeeper. We increased hours for Christy Allardyce in 2019 because we all consider the nurture and sustenance of Christian education for our young people a priority for our church. This year was a particular challenge for our music ministry. Late in the summer of this year, our beloved choir master, George Kent, fell ill, suffering from a heart condition. The grave situation was a cause of great anxiety and worry for all of us in leadership in our church. George and the choir ministry is an essential part of Christ Church. And beyond our self-interest, George is beloved among us. Through the collective prayers of parishioners, families, and friends, George, by the grace of God, is recovering in a very miraculous way. The pulse is also warranted now. Although George is not able at this time to come back to full-time work leading the choir, we hope that he will get there soon. Help in the music ministry came from our own Pam Young, whose decades of experience with George and the Christ Church choir made her a fitting substitute for George during his recovery. Although no one person can truly replace George, the unique abilities that he has, Pam has, with great talent, dedication, leadership, and care, maintained the quality of music for which our Christ Church choir has been renowned. The success of the choir is in no small part due to the commitment of each choir member. I know each one of them has sacrificed to make sure to make the quality of music offered to the worship of God is superb. Thank you. May God continue to bless our music ministry and all those who help it to be a success. This year has also been a year of parting for many of us. We lost dear saints in this past year. Death is an inevitability of life. Our collective consolation lies in our faith that one day we will see these saints again.
Amen.
Until then, we have beautiful examples of their service to God, inspiring us to do our part in witness and service to that same God. Although we have mentioned our lost ones by name at the beginning of the annual meeting, I'd like to make a particular mention of Seth. Seth was on the search committee that hired me and was my first junior warden at Christ Church. Seth's wry sense of humor, compassionate heart, commitment to Christ Church, and passion for God is something I will always cherish. He died suddenly this year, and each week we're still finding out new things that Seth took care of in our parish. I'd like to read a portion of his annual report from last year. Quote, after some 25 years of being involved with the Acolytes, including 12 years as their coordinator, I felt it was time to pass the torch to the next generation. So I retired at the end of September. I was moved beyond words that the parish chose to honor me during the Acolyte commemoration service in November. I can only say to all of you that I will always be grateful for giving me the opportunity to serve the parish that I love, in a job that I love. We will miss Seth's physical presence at our church, but we are faithfully aware of his presence with all the other saints of light of Christ Church. May we follow their great examples of it. As we look forward into the new year, what are some of the goals that we're looking forward to? Well, we will continue, that's too far. We will continue to grow in attendance and programs, in helping people to grow in their relationship to Christ and one another. We will finish the work of the Capital Campaign Committee, including finally getting air conditioning in our facility. Yes. Let everyone know. Finishing our stained glass window work and establishing a fund for ministry. This has been the desire of all of those who've contributed to the campaign. We will not take our eyes off of this ball, my friends. The 2020 budget provides us with several staff transitions, with vestry approval, of course. We are hiring Father Eric Larson to be the assistant to the rector. It's a good picture, isn't it? Father Eric has been supplying to our congregation since July. All of us know Father Eric to be an excellent preacher, a fantastic listener, and a wise pastor. Eric will help us with the ministry to our young people. Father Eric will be with us for 3 Sundays out of the month, sharing the ministry of celebration and preaching with the Reverend Sandra Haynes Mardocco and the Reverend Deacon Ann Berg, and with me on weekends and our weekday services. Father Eric will also work with me and with Christy Allardyce to provide leadership and support to our volunteers working with young adults, young parents, and college-age young adults. Father Eric has already been working with Christy to prepare 12 young people for confirmation, which will happen in June. You may have noticed that in this year's budget, or you will notice, that we are increasing the hours for Christy Allardyce. We hope, with Christy's help, to make more significant inroads in our ministry to young adults, back there, and to young parents. Christy, as a staff person, will also be responsible for supporting and helping our volunteers in our newcomer ministry. Both these initiatives are crucial to the continual growth of our congregation. We will, of course, expand outreach engaging our outreach to the broader community, engaging in projects to connect people to our church, and more importantly, simply to help the community. Examples of some of what we do already are the St. Florian and St. Michael service for emergency first responders, the St. Francis Animal Blessings, Thanksgiving dinner, Lessons and Carol services, Living Supplies Ministries, the Closet Ministry, Ash Wednesday and Good Friday community service, and this year, recently, we were a source of hope and of healing as we did a vigil service after the recent shooting in our community. We will also seek to be a center for education, fellowship, and beautiful liturgy. One goal will be to have a well-known, insightful speaker provide a free presentation to the community once a month before our community potluck fellowship dinners, and of course, before our beautiful confidence service. In this new year, with the help and approval of our vestry, we will also seek to use our beautiful building to do good work in our community, while also providing an income stream to help us to do that work of ministry. Emily Muggy is the chair of a task force that's already working on a few ideas. And in fact, this is an initiative coming from on top, Bishop Nisley, but we're actively capitalizing on this. In fact, in this, just recently, we've been approached by a math tutor who was asking to rent one of our classrooms downstairs through the coming June, while her building, the Brown building, is being renovated. Last week, we had this proposal come before our vestry to be considered. And after addressing the insurance issues and the details of the lease with all those who were concerned, the vestry resolved, I'm pleased to say, by unanimous vote, they approved to offer this lady space for her to do her tutoring. The action is a good one for us, because the use of space requires no additional cost to us, and it's a reliable source of income. And the room will only be used during the week when we're not using it, we're going to have full use of it on Sunday mornings as needed. So I hope, if you do see a attendant downstairs, and she's a wonderful young lady, and she has a group of young seniors with her, be kind, right? Show her Christian welcome, and be open to the possibilities, because, folks, that's going to help us in many ways. Not only is it the right Christian thing to do, but it's going to help us. These goals for Christ Church are bold and very out there. They're ambitious. They're not for a church that's afraid of the future. These goals are not for a church whose vision is only survival. These goals are for a church which has a faith in God's vision, a dream that calls us to be bold, a vision that reminds us that we are called, that reminds us that we are called by God, and that we have been given a great gift of light and of great hope. Friends, just as the people of Isaiah's time and Jesus' time had a choice, we too have a choice. The choice to believe and act on God's vision, to be light for the world. May we have the courage to choose wisely.
Amen.
Amen. So, I'm grateful for, we can turn this off if you want. Oh, okay, keep it up. I'm grateful for our wardens, Betsy and Campbell Cook. They offer me so much in terms of thinking so differently than I do. And then in collaboration with them, we come with many decisions for our church that we hope are right ones as we lead the congregation. So I'm asking them to share a few remarks and invite our senior warden, Betsy Rice, to come forward.
completion of our restored slate roof and the expectation of air conditioning in our near future. Many hours of organizing and close to 100% parish participation demonstrates our faith in what we are doing as a church and as a community, ministering to each other and those beyond our walls. We continue to thrive with our many commissions and committees who strive to care for our physical needs and nurture our souls, each one with focused dedication. Everything it takes to run this parish, from office staff, finance, property, all elements of worship, pastoral care, and hospitality are done by the dedicated workers and volunteers that represent these and many outreach programs. There have been so many outstanding efforts from each and every commission, too numerous to list here, but I would like to give a special thanks to Pam Young for stepping in for the undoubtedly overwhelming task of covering the choir and music program as we thankfully celebrate George Kent's continued recovery. And we have accomplished several other goals that we set out last year. Lido has indeed formed a successful bell ringers class to carry on our tradition. Caswell has expanded the Acolyte program to a huge number. Christy Allardyce continues to nurture our Sunday school program, and this year she will expand her efforts to form a young adult program. And we are most fortunate to have Father Eric Larson to our clergy staff as a part-time assistant. So that is a delightful and welcome addition. As we all know, this is a busy place, not just on Sunday, but all week with programs, meetings, services, Bible study, phones ringing, questions to be answered, bulletins to be created, edited and printed, emails and e-blasts to be sent, music to rehearse, cleaning to be done, house and hospital visits to be made, emergencies and unexpected crises. The list goes on. And we have grown. When Bishop Nisley led our vestry retreat last year, he helped us understand that we have grown from a parish-sized to a program-sized church, and we need to share and redistribute various tasks to balance the load. And we've been making a conscious effort to make these adjustments to our commissions. This year's retreat will be led by the bishop's new canon to the ordinary, the Reverend Dina Cleaver Bartholomew, who has extensive experience in parish development, and we look forward to learning more ways to focus our efforts. One example we know we need to improve on is our communication. With so much going on, those involved often assume everyone knows what's happening, forgetting to keep the parish informed. As we try harder to keep everyone connected, please keep your eye on bulletins, emails, and Friday News e-blast to see the latest. And we'd love to have you join a committee or a commission to be part of the fun. I think what I love most about Christ Church today is the sense of energy and excitement about our commitment to welcome everyone. Because our roof project has been so visible to the town as they drive by or read about it, read about our progress in the papers, and we are more engaged with the wider community as they help fund it, I think our presence seems more community-centered than ever. Father Sunil has created such a contagious sense of joy, compassion, and acceptance of all, both in and out of our church, that is so welcoming to all. Indeed, when Westerly was suffering from our local shooting tragedy, we opened our doors for everyone to gather in unity, allowing us to share our anxieties and to find the reassurance of God's love. We are not always perfect, as hard as we may try, and we never will be, but I believe our heart is in the right place as long as our efforts continue to help and support each other as we share the good news. Thank you.
Betsy, one quick question. What does program church mean?
We'll talk about that. Let's finish
Okay.
the report. So we have new business, appropriate time to ask questions at that time.
It means things change a little bit, and nobody likes change except the wet baby. That's true. Yeah, that's true. This church has gone through a lot of changes in the past couple of years and grown and done some really positive things that have been highlighted. And I just wanted to show you some of the numbers because I'm a numbers guy. Last year I showed you some numbers that were maybe slightly depressing. This year I actually have some better numbers to show you. Jackie's got it all lined up. So we'll start with the bad news, which is the Episcopal Church in general, which as you see, for the last 50 years just keeps getting smaller, unfortunately, and we did again this year. So there's, at some point, somebody might sound the alarm and do something about it. We are doing something about it here at Christ Church. I'll also show you the diocese on the next slide. You know, Bishop Nisley, since he started, he's kept things pretty even. So we've got to give him a lot of credit. Still losing, but holding steady compared to the drops that were previously. Next slide. We're going to start talking about Christ Church. This is where we are right now with pledging, which if there's people that still haven't pledged, or we know people that still haven't pledged, we need to bring that number up, because as you see, that's the lowest we've been in quite some time. The graph makes it look worse than it is. It's not really that bad. It's just, you know, within 20, but we can do this and make it happen. So those are the kind of, you know, realistic statistics that make you pause. But now I'll show you the good statistics. So there's our average Sunday attendance, and as you can see, we dipped down to our lowest point in 2015, and ever since then we've been coming up. So it's really great that we held steady for another year with our average Sunday attendance. It's a great benchmark for how we're doing, and I think it shows that we're starting to improve. We still need to go up, but we're holding our own. Sunday school enrollment, this is really good. Thank you for what's been happening in Christian education, Christian formation, from 36 last year up to 49 this year. That deserves a round of applause. Christy, there's Christy. There she is. So that's excellent. You see, when we decided to really focus on that as a parish and really said this was something that was making us not feel good about ourselves, that we were just losing the kids, and we really made an effort. You know, why are we expanding the position of that person? It's because of those numbers. They're going up because we're focusing on it. Total members, as you can see, once again, we hit our lowest point in 2010. And as you can see, we are happy to report that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this is the 7th year of continued growth in membership at Christ Church. Now, I always like the older numbers because you see where we could go back to if we really put our mind to it. So we still got a long way to go, and I wouldn't depress you by showing you the numbers from the 60s and 70s. They were way up higher, but we're in the right direction. Is that the last one? Or is there one more? That's it? Oh, so it was actually all good news then. So thank you all for your hard work to make this happen, and you know, if we just keep pushing, we can continue to make this church thrive. I think the fact that we were able to do the capital campaign, the fact that we have a new roof, the fact that we've expanded a lot of our ministries here, I mean, it really shows that something's happening here. We're not just sort of retracting in and dying, which is what's happening a lot around this country in churches, not just Episcopal churches, but in a lot of churches around this country. You read about them closing all the time. And we're one of the best, and we can definitely keep going, but great job, everybody, for making the numbers work.
So we also have a property report, and so before inviting Doug Lawrence to come forward, I do want to say that this is the year that Doug resigned as property chair, and this is kind of, we knew it was coming, right? He said this to me 2 years ago, and I kept saying no. And but this year he had to resign because of things that were happening. And so good thing. So here at Christ Church, but he just needed to move from that position. And Doug will still be involved in the congregation on vestry and in other task forces within our church. So we had to choose 2 new property chairs, and we decided to we asked Danny Andrews. Danny, would you stand for a second? And Barbara Pacopoulos. Andrews has graciously accepted their and we look forward to their continued work. And Doug, would you give us your report, your final report?
Thank you, Sunil. Good morning. This is a day with mixed feelings for sure. When I joined the property committee about 5 years ago, we adopted a goal as a property committee. And that goal was to whatever work we did on the church, that would improve the appearance of the church, this building. And the property committee, I'm very proud of what they've done to make that happen. Our first project was, I think, what Sunil would call a blessing in disguise. You remember the blessing in disguise? It was a redo of the undergrowth. We recognized that we did have a sewage blockage out there, and it was a major problem for the church. And we were able to get the undercroft, as well as the living supplies closet, as well as the chapel, conference room. We basically rebuilt all that as a property committee. Thank you. And but it's really the committee. The other thing that occurred project-wise was the bell tower. And not only did we get that repaired on the outside, but we also got that repaired on the inside as well. So Leo is happy in terms of the organ area and the fact that he's got some students learning how to play. And if you haven't seen Leo play that organ, you've got to do it sometime. What's that?
Bells.
Bells, sorry. The other thing that happens with the property committee is you can see the kinds of projects that we've taken on over the last few years, and I think you would agree with me, whether it's the paving of the paths and the roads and the front door of the church and so forth, that it is an improvement over the way it used to be, and I tried to give a couple of before or after. This was not done easily. We had a group of vendors that started out with us with the undergrowth. And I was a fellow named Wayne Swan, who is a carpenter, but he's also a very smart guy in terms of his approach to fixing something. We had John Pravesi, who's been our painter. We've had Tommy Jusilovic, who's been our tiler, and we just did one of the classrooms. If you haven't seen it, he's really a pro. And then Mike Evering is our electrician and also a vestry member. So, but that's, I'd be remiss if I didn't, comment on the other property committee people. So could I ask the property committee members that are in the room to stand up, please? Next.
Doug, don't go yet. On behalf of the parish, we wanted to give you a gift that will remind you of your love for Christ Church and God's love for you. And so we want to give you this. It's a book of comments. Go ahead. great as Doug Lawrence, property chair, and then with the years that you were property chair of Christ Church.
Thank you very much. It's a prayer book and a hymn book.
Yes.
So I invite our capital campaign report to be given by Fred Allardyce. Fred came all the way from Florida.
Come over, Billy.
We did.
I did come from Florida, and I am delighted to be here. There were a few other reasons why I came, but let me say first of all that the pride that we have in the church has been greatly assisted by the work that the property committee did. And the pride of the church was a great assist in terms of having a successful capital campaign. So let me say, for openers, we have had a successful capital campaign. We have raised the $1,500,000 a year ago. I suggested we were going to try to raise. And so if you read the minutes of last year's meeting, my remarks went on and on. Today, very short, very sweet. We did what we tried to do. We've got the results with a roof that's going to last for a long time. We've gotten a lot of support from the community, which is very exciting. We've got a lot of support from the parish, which is incredibly exciting for me. So all in all, it's been a great success. We have on the church that we've been filling in the steeple on, now fully filled in. There's a sheet up there also which says thank you, and I do thank you for the success of the campaign. Also listed on that sheet are all the members of the campaign committee, to the best of my knowledge. Probably forgot somebody, but there were a lot of people that helped, and the many hands made light work of it. Thank you very much for all that was done. The success is apparent in the roof. The success will be apparent in the air conditioning, and there should be some money left over for a ministry. So we're going to keep working. There are more gift opportunities out there. I'm not going to say no. And new opportunities that come along, but we've done what we set out to do. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. So now we have the treasurer's report, and I invite Stevie Blanchett to come forward. Stevie has done some amazing work. It's complex, some of this work, and a lot of this work, and especially they don't teach us in seminary to do this type of work, and that's why we rely on the gifts and talents of people like Stevie.
First a commercial. If anybody hasn't gotten one of these wonderful bags, we have to use them now. Lisa Kitchen has them. They're supporting our youth group. $5. Do it. They're great. Anyway, as you know, I like to begin with a joke. So I went on Google when I typed in church treasurer jokes. Nothing. We're not funny. I don't know. What can I say? But I do have one interesting thing to share with you. Recently, I was kind of cleaning out a drawer to shift stuff around in the finance office and came upon this. Oh. It is in pristine condition. Pages, if anybody could find a use for this, 12 columns, we would love you to take it. Yeah, really. All right. Moving right along. If you can't hear me, here you go. Okay. I'm going to try to zip through this. Many thanks to all who continue to help me in my work as treasurer, especially Catherine Hoxie for her invaluable support and assistance. And although Barbara Whitford retired at the end of September, I am indebted to her for continuing to fill in the blanks just a couple days ago, actually, for me on occasion from the historical knowledge of her 30 years of service. If you have your reports beginning, I think, on page 20, here are some highlights, starting with the balance of various funds. In case you haven't used from before, it just simply lists all the church-related accounts, many of which are essentially designated funds that have varying degrees of restrictions on how funds can be used. Escrow account holds funds which are designated for a number of special projects, both short and long term, everything from acolytes to Thanksgiving dinner, as well as the Marshall Rice Fund and now the new fund in memory of Seth Pullman, which will support the acolytes and vergers. In accordance with Mary's wishes, it will be called the Seth and Mary Pullman Fund. The investment fund account down under the fidelity section of the $89,493 year-end balance, $61,826 is budgeted to be spent in this current year. It's disconcerting to see the year-end values of this account going down to this extent, but the saving grace is that the collateral account is below it, which was formerly part of the investment fund, shifted to a separate account to secure our line of credit with the Washington Trust, has remained untouched and has grown nicely, $165,000 more this year-end than last. We are now in the process of lowering the available ceiling in the line of credit, which will allow us to release and use, if necessary, some of the funds in the collateral account. Moving to the next page, where details the receipts. Unfortunately, I have to report that both plate and pledge payments fell short of budget. For plate, almost $3,200 and $7,500 for pledge. In spite of this shortfall, however, we received more than $24,000 in pledge payments this year than we did last year. So it's interesting how these things play out. In a side note, we have already received in this current year, 2020, nearly $4,300 in previous year payments. Two quick things regarding pledge payments. One, it's never too late to make a pledge payment. Never. And then two, the contribution statements that we send out are all manually entered in Power Church. So sometimes mistakes can happen. I encourage you always to compare your statements with your own records and get in touch if you find any discrepancies. Moving down, the Marshall Rice Fund is used to cover supply clergy and their associated mileage expenses. And in 2019, we only ended up needing to use 82.5% of the budgeted $16,340. Fundraising. As we made our way through the year, $25,000 seemed a far reach, but through Herculean efforts by so many at our Christmas Bazaar, we exceeded the budget amount by almost $300. Lisa and Wendy and our team were just amazing, and it happened, so 3 cheers for everybody who helped for that. Net investment income. Each year, according to formulas approved many years ago by our investment committee, we budget funds from our investments to be used to help meet our expenses. The Centennial and Renters Housing Funds are similarly formally driven. Only a couple more dozen pages, it's okay. Under personnel, under the disbursements report, you'll notice that the staff health insurance is over budget. This was due to an unanticipated employee request for coverage midway through the year, which our employee manual requires us to provide. Under buildings and grounds, repairs and maintenance line, in addition to routine R&M expenses, we had over $3,000 in sizable unexpected bills, an engineer's assessment of the church foundation, initial pest control treatment, plumbing bill for backup in the lower level restroom, and associated cleanup. In addition to this budget line item, the property committee was once again granted a separate capital budget of $10,000 from our investment account for major projects. Their to-do list and many unexpected issues exceeded their separate budget, however, resulting in the over budget total for R&M. For 2020, I'll just mention that the R&M line has now been increased to cover all such expenses. Fingers crossed. Under administration, try as we do to cut costs, a number of overages here. Independent contracts are over due to compensation paid to run the financial administration following Barbara's retirement. Although I've been holding the fort in the meantime, we are looking at using a bookkeeping service which will also upgrade our use of QuickBooks for added efficiency. Stay tuned for updates on this. The office equipment lease line also represents much heavier use of our Xerox machine and in turn, lower outside printing costs. However, we are looking into a more cost-effective vendor for this. On the last two categories, program tended to come in at only 50%, 56% of budget due to wonderful consideration from so many of those groups. Outreach was already mentioned that it's over because of the website and live streaming expense hadn't been part of the budget. Again, thank you all for your support. If you have questions now or at any time,